greatest rock songs in history sound like they took months to write. Layers of emotion, perfect chord changes, lyrics that feel like somebody agonized over every word. And then you find out the truth. Some of these songs were written in the time it takes to order a pizza. The riff came out of nowhere. The words showed up fully formed. The whole thing was done before anyone in the room realized what had just happened. These are 10 immortal rock songs that took less than 30 minutes to write. Some of them took less than 5. Number 10, Roxanne, The Police, 1978.
Since I wrote my notes, I should have known this right.
The Police were in Paris for a gig that was not going well. The venue was a disaster. The crowd was thin, but the hotel was on one of the rougher streets in the city after dark. And Sting spent the evening watching the world below his window.
From the start, only hope can keep me.
He picked up a nylon-stringed guitar and started playing, working out a melody inspired by the scene outside, something with a bossa nova feel. He had the name Roxanne almost immediately. The melody came with it. The chord progression was pulled from jazz and bossa nova, and Sting was not trying to make it sound like anything in particular. It just fell out of him in a few minutes while the rest of the band was somewhere else in the hotel.
Looked out this morning, don't believe what I saw.
When he brought it to Andy Summers and Stewart Copeland, they rearranged it into something harder and more rhythmic. But the bones of the song, melody, lyrics, chords, all happened at a piano in a hotel lobby in the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee. The song flopped on its first UK release. It took a re-release in '79 to break through, reaching number 12 on the British charts and becoming one of the defining tracks of the Police's career. It has been covered hundreds of times and remains one of the most played songs in classic rock radio history, all because Sting was bored in a bad hotel on a bad night in Paris. Number 9, Paranoid, Black Sabbath, 1970.
All day long I think of things, but nothing seems to satisfy.
Black Sabbath had finished recording their second album, and the label told them there was a problem. They were a few minutes short. The record needed one more track. The band did not have one, so they went back in and wrote something on the spot. Tony Iommi came up with the riff first. He has said it took about 20 minutes.
Finish with my woman, 'cause she couldn't help me with mine.
Geezer Butler scribbled out lyrics about depression and paranoia, matching the speed of the riff with words that tumbled out almost faster than he could write them down. The whole thing, from first note to finished recording, was done within a couple of hours. The actual songwriting was closer to 20 minutes. Nobody thought it was special. Iommi has said the band considered it one of the weakest things they had recorded. They almost left it off the album entirely. Paranoid became the biggest hit Black Sabbath ever had. It reached number 4 on the UK singles chart, higher than any other release they ever had. The album was renamed from War Pigs to Paranoid because the label recognized that the single would be the commercial engine. The riff Iommi threw together as filler ended up introducing millions of people to heavy metal. 20 minutes. The most important 20 minutes in the history of the genre. Number 8, Fortunate Son, Creedence Clearwater Revival, 1969. John Fogerty was angry, and he wrote quickly when he was. The Vietnam War was dragging on. The draft was pulling working-class kids out of their homes, while the sons of senators found ways to stay behind. Fogerty had served in the Army Reserve himself and knew exactly who was getting called up and who was getting a pass. He went into his bedroom with a little tablet and a pen, and the lyrics came out in about 20 minutes. The opening line came first. It ain't me. That was the whole engine. Fogerty was writing from the perspective of everybody who did not have a congressman for a father. The verses stacked up fast. The speed of the writing shows in the finished product. It has a rawness that sounds like a conversation he had been having in his head for years. Fortunate Son hit number 14 on the Billboard chart, but its real life started after that. It became the definitive Vietnam protest anthem, used in films and documentaries so often that the opening guitar riff has become shorthand for the entire era. Fogerty spent 20 minutes writing a song that has defined how the world remembers that war. Number 7, Free Fallin', Tom Petty, 1989.
Loves Jesus in America too.
Tom Petty and Jeff Lynne had never written together before the afternoon Free Fallin' happened. Lynne, who had fronted Electric Light Orchestra and recently co-produced the Traveling Wilburys album, came over to Petty's house to see if they had any chemistry. Petty sat down at a keyboard and started playing a simple 2-chord pattern.
Loves horses and her boyfriend too.
Lynne liked the chords and told him to keep going. Petty started singing whatever came to mind. A good girl who loves horses and her boyfriend too. A picture of the San Fernando Valley, the freeway, and the feeling of driving through a place where everything looked perfect on the surface. The words came out in a stream. By the time Lynne left that afternoon, the song was essentially finished. Melody, lyrics, structure, all within about 20 minutes of Petty first touching the keyboard.
She's a good girl. Crazy about Elvis.
He later said it was the easiest song he had ever written. He also said that worried him because he did not trust things that came that easily. Free Fallin' reached number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became the signature track of Full Moon Fever, which sold over 5 million copies. The song has been streamed over 1 billion times. Petty almost did not trust it because it came too fast. He was used to fighting with songs. This one just showed up and sat down as if it had always been there. Number 6, Smoke on the Water, Deep Purple, 1972.
We all came out to Montreux.
On December 4th, 1971, Deep Purple were in Montreux, Switzerland, getting ready to record their next album at the casino. That night, Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention were playing a show in the same building. Somebody in the crowd fired a flare gun at the ceiling during the set. The casino caught fire. Deep Purple stood outside and watched the whole thing burn, while smoke drifted out over Lake Geneva. The band had to find another place to record. They ended up in the hallways and corridors of the Grand Hotel using the Rolling Stones mobile studio. But before any of that, the fire had given them something. A few days later, bassist Roger Glover woke up from a dream with a phrase stuck in his head. Smoke on the water, he told the rest of the band. The rest happened in one burst. Ritchie Blackmore picked up his guitar and played a riff built on fourths that sounded heavier than anything that Simple had a right to. Came out of him in minutes. Ian Gillan sat down and wrote the lyrics almost as fast because he did not have to invent anything. He was describing exactly what he had seen the night before. The casino in flames, the funky Claude running in and out, pulling people to safety, the band scrambling for somewhere to record. Every line in the song is a straight retelling of events that happened less than a day earlier. Smoke on the Water became the most recognized guitar riff on the planet. It is the first thing a generation of guitarists learned to play. The song reached number 4 on the Billboard chart and turned Deep Purple into arena headliners across America. Blackmore's riff took minutes. Gillan's lyrics were journalism set to music. The whole song was born from standing in the cold, watching a building burn, and writing down exactly what happened. Before the top 5, one quick thing. If you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. It's free. It takes 1 second and it helps us make more of these. Okay, let's keep going. Number 5, Under Pressure, Queen and David Bowie, 1981. Nobody planned this song. Queen were recording at Mountain Studios in Montreux, Switzerland in the summer of 1981. David Bowie happened to be in town and dropped by the studio to say hello. Somebody suggested they try playing together. What was supposed to be a casual jam turned into one of the most famous collaborations in rock history. John Deacon started noodling on his bass, just playing around, nothing in mind. The riff that came out of him became the bass line that opens the track, one of the most recognizable bass parts ever recorded. Pressure, pushing down on me, pressing Bowie and Freddie Mercury started throwing vocal ideas at each other. The rest of the band locked in behind them. Within minutes, the core of the song existed. The riff, the vocal melody, the structure, all of it came out of that first jam before anyone had time to overthink it. Roger Taylor described it as a moment where everyone was firing at once. The lyrics and final arrangement took longer. Bowie and Mercury went off together and hammered them out, passing lines back and forth. Mercury later said neither of them could remember exactly who wrote which line, but the song itself, the thing that makes you recognize it within 2 seconds, was born in a jam that lasted less time than a coffee break. Under Pressure reached #1 in the UK and became one of the biggest hits for both acts. The bass line later ended up at the center of one of the most famous sampling disputes in music, when Vanilla Ice used a nearly identical pattern for Ice Ice Baby in 1990, and initially denied it came from the same place. Deacon's Throwaway Noodle ended up in 2 of the most recognized songs of the 80s and 90s. He never planned any of it. Number 4, Yesterday, The Beatles, 1965.
There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday.
Paul McCartney woke up at the Wimpole Street home of his then-girlfriend Jane Asher's family, and there was a melody in his head, fully formed, complete. He rolled out of bed, walked to a piano, and started playing it before he forgot it. The whole thing was there. The problem was that McCartney did not believe it was his. A melody that completely showed up out of nowhere felt like something he must have heard somewhere else. He spent weeks playing it for people in the industry, asking if they recognized it. Nobody did. George Martin told him it was original. Lennon told him it was original. He finally accepted it, and he did not have lyrics yet, so he gave it a placeholder title, Scrambled Eggs. For weeks, one of the most beautiful songs in popular music history opened with the line, Scrambled Eggs. Oh my baby, how I love your legs. The real lyrics came during a road trip to Portugal. The recording was unusual for the Beatles. None of the other members played on it. McCartney, alone on acoustic guitar with a string quartet arranged by George Martin. That caused tension within the band. It did not feel like a Beatles song, but the song was too good to argue with. Yesterday became the most covered song in recorded music history. Over 3,000 versions documented. #1 in the United States. BMI ranks it as the song that has generated the most airplay of any song ever. McCartney still cannot explain where it came from. The whole melody arrived in less time than it takes to brush your teeth. Number 3, Layla, Derek and the Dominos, 1970. Eric Clapton was in love with Pattie Boyd. That was the problem. Boyd was married to George Harrison, one of Clapton's closest friends. The situation was tearing him apart, and he had no idea what to do except write music. He had been reading a Persian love poem called The Story of Layla and Majnun, about a man who goes insane because he cannot be with the woman he loves. Clapton took the title, took the intensity, and started writing. The verses came together quickly, but the song was missing something. The signature piece had not arrived yet. That happened when Duane Allman walked into the room. Allman picked up his guitar, listened to what Clapton had, and played that riff. The descending, crying guitar line that opens the song. It came out of him almost instantly. He heard the emotion Clapton was trying to express, and translated it into 7 notes that hit harder than any lyric could. Layla flopped on release. The album sold poorly, and the single barely charted. It took years, plus an acoustic re-recording in '92 for the song to become what it is today. One of the greatest rock songs ever written, born out of heartbreak and a riff that Duane Allman pulled out of the air in seconds. Allman died in a motorcycle accident the following year. He was 24. Number 2, Smells Like Teen Spirit, Nirvana, 1991. Kurt Cobain said it took 5 minutes. The band was at their rehearsal space in Tacoma, just messing around between songs. Cobain started playing a 4-chord pattern that borrowed heavily from the Pixies, a band he had been obsessed with for years. He liked how they shifted between quiet and loud, and he wanted to write something that used the same dynamic. Chris Novoselic was not impressed at first. He thought it sounded too simple. Cobain kept playing it. After a while, Novoselic picked up his bass and locked in. Dave Grohl started hammering out a drum pattern that gave the whole thing its forward momentum. Within minutes, they had the structure. Cobain wrote the lyrics later and did not spend much time on them either. The title came from his friend Kathleen Hanna of Bikini Kill, who had scrawled "Kurt smells like Teen Spirit" on his bedroom wall with a Sharpie marker. She was referring to Teen Spirit deodorant, which Cobain's then girlfriend Toby Vale wore. He did not know it was a deodorant brand. He thought the phrase sounded rebellious and ran with it. Smells Like Teen Spirit came out in September of '91. The music video went into heavy rotation on MTV and changed everything almost overnight. Within 4 months, Nevermind had knocked Michael Jackson's Dangerous off the #1 spot. Grunge replaced hair metal. An entire industry restructured itself around a song that a 24-year-old wrote in 5 minutes because he was bored at rehearsal and liked the Pixies. Number 1, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, The Rolling Stones, 1965. Keith Richards was asleep at his flat in Carlton Hill, St. John's Wood, London, on the night of May 7, 1965. The Stones were in the middle of an American tour, and Richards kept a cassette recorder by his bed because he often woke up with ideas that he forgot by morning. Something happened during the night. Richards, still asleep or barely awake, reached over, picked up his guitar, and played a riff into the recorder. Then he went back to sleep. In the morning, he rewound the tape and found 2 things on it. Rough version of the riff that would become the most famous guitar line in rock and roll history, and 40 minutes of Keith Richards snoring. He brought the riff to Mick Jagger, who wrote the lyrics in about 10 minutes by the pool the next day. Jagger was irritated by American advertising and media saturation. The words poured out like a rant. A man who cannot find satisfaction anywhere. Jagger has said the lyrics were barely edited. What he wrote poolside that afternoon is almost exactly what ended up on the record. Richards originally heard the riff as a horn part. He imagined a brass section playing it, something like an Otis Redding arrangement. He did not think the guitar version was finished. When the band recorded it at RCA Studios in Hollywood a few days later, Richards used a fuzz box as a temporary measure to approximate the horn sound he wanted. The rest of the band heard the playback and told him it was done. Richards disagreed. He was outvoted. Satisfaction hit #1 in the United States within 4 weeks. It stayed there for 4 weeks. It reached #1 worldwide. It transformed the Rolling Stones from a successful British blues band into the biggest rock act on the planet. The riff that Richards recorded in his sleep on a cheap cassette player in a Florida hotel room became the sound that defined an entire generation. Richards has told this story 100 times, and he still seems amazed by it. The greatest riff ever written came from a man who was unconscious when he played it. His sleeping brain handed it to him, and he was smart enough to have a tape recorder running. Sometimes the best songs are not written at all. They just show up, and the only thing the songwriter has to do is not get in the way. Those are 10 Immortal rock songs that were written faster than most people take to decide what to have for dinner. 5 minutes, 20 minutes, in one case, while the songwriter was literally asleep. If we left one off the list, tell us in the comments. And if this is your first time here, hit subscribe. There is a lot more where this came from.